This is Raven Keyes, and Raven Keyes is the author, creator, the manifester of Medical Reiki, and has spread the skills and techniques around the world for Reiki people, practitioners, to be able to use Reiki in the medical fields in a very professional way and also effective way. So Raven, let's start there, and then I'll share some of the rest of your bio with that as well. But so
thank you.
Yeah, share with us about your medical Reiki and your books. And
Okay. Well, I have to say that every single one of us has a story that's going to come to fruition. Whenever Reiki touches you, something happens. Like, I believe that we're all here in service, and we it was ordained, I don't even know if that's the right word, but we came and we were allowed to come at the same time. There's a story in Buddhism. I was Buddhist, I was pagan, I was, I've never been Christian, but I've been a lot of things. And but there is a story in Buddhism about who was going to be allowed to be born in this time, because all the description of what was going to be going on in this terrible time is happening. And so the miracle workers who were followers of the Buddha that could perform amazing miracles said, when the truth was revealed about the future and what was going to be going on, they volunteered. They put their hands up and said, I'll go. And they could do amazing miracles. Walking on water was just one thing. They could do unbelievable amounts of things. And so the Buddha said, I'm sorry, but you're not qualified. You don't have enough courage to withstand what is going to happen. There are others that will be born that are going to assist the human race in overcoming this terrible time that they're living in and actually create evolution. And I know in my heart of hearts that we who practice Reiki are in that tribe. And I don't know who else is with us. I know there are people doing a lot of things all over the world. There are shamans. I'm very good friends with shamans all over the place. I do shamanic work myself. But the thing is, Reiki is so profound because it's like energy from the universe. It's like we are empty. It's not even about us. It's not about our ego. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about it. And our ability to deliver this medicine called energy is profound. And so I became a Reiki master, and it was like 1995. People basically didn't know anything about Reiki. So I ended up getting a job, believe it or not, in a health club through a whole set of circumstances that involved my husband and a musical student of his, and his girlfriend owned Equinox. And anyway, so one thing led to another. I end up at Equinox. Then I'm like being interviewed by all these magazines. And then then they ask me, because they don't know. I mean, it's like, oh, well, she's doing this. Maybe she can teach meditation. So I started teaching meditation. I'd never done it before. But one of the things that I've learned is that if you are asked to do something, just say yes. Even if you think you can't do it, say yes. And so the angels taught me this too. And so anyway, it came to pass that then I was teaching a meditation class, and somebody came up to me afterward and asked me for Reiki. She found out from her friend that I did Reiki, and she became my client. So then one fine day, she calls me up and she says, oh God, I'm really in trouble. I need to see you right away. So I make an arrangement to see her the next day. And she comes and she tells me, she collapses in my arms in tears and tells me that she has to get open heart surgery. And there had been an article in the New York Times about the surgeon that she was about to interview, and that he allowed, he had alternative healers in his operating room, whatever. So she asked me, would I go? I said, oh no, absolutely not. I cannot do that. And this is what I learned, that you have to say yes, was in this event. I was like, no, I could never do it. I know I'll faint, and I hate hospitals, and I can't stand the sight of blood, and I just can't do it. So she then gets on the table, and then by this time I had realized that it was really okay for me to acknowledge that I was working with the Archangel Gabriel, because Gabriel kept coming. I kept saying, no, it's not true. I'm making it up, and finally now I realize it's true. So slow dance, getting to where I need to go. So I say, so anyway, she's on the table and she goes to sleep immediately. And you know how it is. It doesn't matter how upset somebody is when they get to you. In no time, they're somewhere else. They're out, they're snoring, they're doing whatever. So she's out. And then Gabriel came and he said, you have to say yes. A lot needs to happen from this. Don't worry. I'll be with you. And a lot of angels are coming to this event. You won't be alone. You have to say yes. And just give her your resume at the end of the session. And I thought, oh my God, I'm making up stuff again, because I just finished writing a resume the day before. So I was like, and so it came to pass that I said, yes, I will. And she went to see the surgeon, and all he wanted was my resume. And she had it in her pocketbook. And to this day, if you talk to her, she'll say, I still can't believe that I had, who walks away around with somebody's resume in their pocketbook. So then I go to surgery, and then, I'm invited to join this research team now. And so every Tuesday morning, I'm sitting around this table. It's like being with King Arthur at the Knights of the Round Table, practically. And it's PhD this, doctor that, do all around. And then my name, Reiki Master. Well, I have no idea why they even want me there. What are they doing? What's happening? I have nothing to say. I cheer, yay, when they say that their research is getting published. It's like, I don't know anything. But then I'm told eventually that the surgeon is interested in energy medicine. And so I'm teamed up with a doctor now. And I'm on this list, and now I'm like double lung transplant. And it's like, and I'm on this list, and it's like terrifying, really terrifying. But once you see what happens in an operating room, your compassion wakes up, and you say to yourself, if I can help out with this, this is what I have to do. I have to say yes. I have to say yes. And that's all I've done, is say yes, say yes, say yes. And then it came to pass that, 9/11 came. It came at a time I had just worked with this young man who got double lung transplant, and it was a whole thing. Like I did journeys, shamanic journeys for him. He was waiting for lungs. He was on the operating table 2 times before this. And the thing is, if there's going to be a transplant, there's our teams. There's the team, the lead surgeon who's going to do the transplant is probably on a jet plane. I don't see how else this can happen, because it's like do time is of the essence, and then goes to the scene of an accident, and then and examines the person who just died to see if their organs are good enough to be transplanted. So in the 2 times previously, they weren't. The lungs were not good. So this time, we didn't even know if the lungs were going to be okay, but it seemed like it was going to work out this time. So they called me. I go to the hospital. I've already done all this stuff. I've worked with him for months doing Reiki for him. And then, so the night before the lungs came, the patient almost died. He was but they asked me to come to the hospital because they didn't expect him to live till morning. And so I went to the hospital and I gave him Reiki that night. And I swear to you, the level of his choking and coughing was terrifying. I thought he was going to die in front of me. But, we carried on. And then in the morning, the lead surgeon came, and he was a spiritual guy who was really actually Catholic. And when he couldn't believe the patient was still alive, for one thing. And the fact that he had slept through the night was, he couldn't believe it. He fell to his knees in front. And this young man came from a very wealthy family. So this meant he was in a different part of the hospital where people could sleep overnight in the same room with him. And, there was all this stuff. There was no limit to how many people could come, and nothing. It was like high tea at 4:00 in the afternoon. It was really, really something. So his fiance was there when the doctor fell to his knees, and he prayed to God that the lungs would come that day. It was dire. Meanwhile, I was in the Central Park praying for the same thing. And then my phone rang, and it was them, and they asked me to come to the hospital because they felt that the lungs were going to come. So I go up there, and it's like giving Reiki, and like there's chaos really everywhere. But in the meantime, the doctor said I could go to the surgery because he saw the significance of my presence, that he felt that I had saved the patient's life. And so I was going to be able to go to the hospital, into surgery, which was terrifying beyond words to me. And a surgery like this at this level of intensity. And, I don't have any medical training. I never even wanted to be a nurse. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. So, well, there are teams, like I said before. So the team that was going to take out the lungs, that lead surgeon didn't know anything about me. And he said, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about this. This is the first time hearing about this. I'm not allowing this in my operating room. It's not happening. And he said, she can come in until the patient goes to sleep. And that's it. And it was like, and then Dr. whatever can deal with it later. If he wants her in the operating room, that's on him. Well, I knew when I hear this, because I know what that means. I know what door I'm going to have to come into, and I know that I'm going to freaking faint. There's no way that I can come in a situation like that and stand up. And I said, I can't do it, but I did go until he was asleep. And then I went, then I went back to where everybody was in his room with everything that was going on. And I taught them all how to send energy to him. It was like downloaded to me, like how to make it possible for everybody to participate in this surgery. Because there were a lot of people there now. All these friends and relatives were really there, and they were all frantic. And so then his fiance said to me, let's go down in front of the operating room door and send energy from there. Well, this is not allowed, but somehow it happened. It's not allowed, but I don't know how it happened, but somehow we ended up down in front of the door, and we were sending energy, and I was sending Reiki through the door, to him. And a nurse came out, and the young lady said, are the lungs on the way? And we knew the lungs were on the way. Now everything was approved. He's on the table, and he knows he's getting the lungs. And so she says, I don't know exactly where they are. I don't know where the team is. And then we hear like running down this hallway, running. Here comes it's the transplant team. It's the lead surgeon, and they're coming, and they have the lungs in a cooler. That's how they get transported. And so running. And so she said, this is the Reiki master. And I gave Reiki to the lungs, and as they're going by, and he goes, and the doctor said, send some Reiki to me. And then the whole team went into the operating room. Well, the long and the short of it is, we went back, everybody, we stuck together, we all sent energy. I was doing distance Reiki, on and on it went. And I left the hospital at like 3 o'clock in the morning. The surgery was over. It was a success. He was in the ICU. So the next morning was Sunday. That all happened on Saturday and until Sunday morning. And so I got called to come. And so I went up to the ICU, and there he was. He couldn't speak because he had a tube down his throat, but he had a tear coming down his cheek, and his mouth said, "Thank you, Raven." And then on Tuesday, it was 9/11, and everything. He would have died if he didn't get the lungs that day. All airspace over New York. You couldn't take a subway. You couldn't take a car. You couldn't take a plane. You couldn't take a boat. You couldn't do anything. And he was saved. And I really do believe that it was all the Reiki and all the prayers, all the journeys, all the connections that were made in the spiritual realm that saved him. And then a year later, I danced at his wedding. So that was how everything got started in the beginning. After 9/11, a lot of people know I spent a lot of time, like all my time, volunteering with the emergency, at the medical examiner's office, at the family center, at Ground Zero. It was full on all the time drama at the highest level imaginable of emotional trauma. Anyway, and what an amazing experience that was. But the thing was that everybody from New York knows there's 9/11 was a breaking point. There's before and after 9/11. And it might be that way for everybody in the whole United States of America, for all I know, and the world. But all I know is what happened for me. So, my life started doing other things after that all was in the can. And I got sick myself from being down there and on and on. But the real big start of medical Reiki came because of the fact that I had worked with that heart surgeon, and then there was a woman recommended to me who needed breast cancer surgery, and she asked Dr. Feldman if I could go to her surgery. He knew the heart surgeon, and so he said yes, because he's the kind of doctor, he's a medical genius, frankly. And he's done so much research, pages and pages and pages of things that he's researched. He's changed medicine when it comes to how women are operated on. He's come up with amazing ways in which to shorten things and make it easier for them because he cares. And he's one of us, actually. You know what I mean? He's one of us. And Gabriel told me that the Archangel Michael works with Dr. Feldman and helps him to get rid of the cancer, helps him take it out of the body, and so on. But he is the one that really made it possible for medical Reiki to become a real thing, because he just decided, he asked me would I keep working with him. And then he started sending his patients to me right from his office after they were diagnosed with breast cancer. And so they came, and they didn't even know what they were doing. It's like, when somebody's told something like that, it's like you just go somewhere else. You can't even hear what people are saying to you. Did they know what the word Reiki even meant? No, the doctor said to do it, it might help. And so they came. And so, and so whether I liked it or not, and I just became somebody who was working with a breast cancer surgeon from soup to nuts. Here we're doing this, now we're doing, taking care of people before surgeries a lot of times, and maybe not. Maybe they have to get surgery right away because it's that kind of situation. And they keep changing the way they do things too. And it used to be you got a surgery right away, and then you do the chemotherapy, and then they switch it to the other way around. and who knows, like what's going on now, because we haven't been able to do anything since COVID, and they're still very slowly relaxing the COVID restrictions in hospitals. But the fact is, there's nobody else on this planet that knows what I know, because I was given this charge by a really revered breast cancer surgeon. I mean, he's like invited to go all over the world and discuss this breast cancer with all these different doctors, you know, breast cancer doctors and everything. And he's the only doctor in the world who has his own PowerPoint about Reiki. And he's the only doctor in the world who's been invited to speak in Japan at the 100-year anniversary of Mikao Usui, which is happening in April in Osaka, with all these big time Reiki masters from Japan and everything else. And those people who are doing this made it possible for my book to be translated into Spanish. They got me a Spanish book deal. And anyway, so medical Reiki really started when my husband was, he's another person who died because of 9/11. Only thing is, it didn't happen right away. And he was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And there was nothing I could do. It's here I am doing all this work and helping all these people, but I can't help him. So I was here where I am right now in Glastonbury, and I was up on the tour, and I was crying at the egg stone, the dragon stone, where I know you've been to Glastonbury, so you know where that is. So I was crying on the tour, and Archangel Gabriel came to me and just held me and comforted me and told me that there was nothing, that this was meant to be, and that they had it, like the angels had this under control, and that this is another thing that needed to happen, was that my husband had a destiny and that he had chosen it, and this was part of it, and it had to go all the way to the end, and that he would die, I was told. But I was also told that for my own healing, to give me something to do was something that they needed to have happen. And I was told that they wished for me to teach as many Reiki masters as possible, everything I knew about going into surgery, because it needs to happen. That's what they said. That's what Gabriel said to me. It needs to happen. And so, you know, by then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to see what I can do. I just have to say yes to this. I didn't know how I was going to possibly do this. And so it came to pass that I put it out there that I was going to do this. I put it out to my students, and all these people started coming to hear what I had to say. And one of them put together a brief outline that turned into a manual that's really complex now. It's like, and people were coming from Canada. I didn't even know how all this was happening. I just kept going forward. And then I realized, I better tell Dr. Feldman that I'm doing this, because I want to make sure that it's really okay and that I'm not doing something too weird. And so usually I would only see him in pre-op at this point, you know, when the patient's getting ready to go to surgery, or in the operating room. And by the way, he knows about the other thing. He knows, the really brilliant surgeons know there's something else going on besides what they're doing with their hands. There's something else. And so he will say to me in the operating room, usually a surgeon would say to the anesthesia doctor, how's our patient doing? Meaning all that medical stuff and what's going on the monitors and all that. He'll say, Raven, how's our patient doing? Skipping over anesthesia altogether, because it's about the other thing. How is the patient really doing? How are they doing? The person, not the patient. And there's a big difference in the work that we do as medical Reiki masters. We're there for the person, for the actual living, being, and everybody else there is there for the patient, and their job is so serious, and they have to pay such close attention to what they're doing. There's no space left inside them to think about the person. What if they have to do something? What if an emergency happens? They have to do something. They cannot think about the family, about how this is going to affect the future. Their whole thing is about saving the patient, their life. That's it. And it's just so big. It's just this whole business of doing this is really huge. So, so I go to Dr. Feldman's office and I bring the certificate that I am giving out and this manual, and he's looking at everything, goes, Raven, this is really fantastic. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you. And he's like, this has got to happen. He's like quoting the angels. This has got to happen, but you have to start a company. It can't be about your name. It's got to be a company. You have to make a company. So I was like, well, I never even thought about making a company, but, and so then I started asking people, what should I name the company? Dr. Feldman says I need to do this. And people, by then I had the Raven Keyes Medical Reiki book out, and it was being put up on the Columbia Presbyterian Surgery blog, about the book. It was, being publicized at the hospital and everything. So they said, put your name on it. And because people know who you are. So I didn't feel like a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination. I'm like, well, I don't know how many copies of my book have been sold. I don't know, but I did it anyway. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's my integrity and I will not allow anything to go awry with any of this, if to the best of my ability. It's a staying true to what it is and making sure that everything is downloaded to the people that come to learn this at the highest level that I can possibly deliver it at. And the angels assist all the time. They do. And everybody who comes to take the training, one of the very first things that happens is that they get to, in a meditation, and I never know how it's going to go. It's like the angels decide, where does this group of people need to be in order to receive an actual spiritual assistant that's going to work with them. And I call it an angel. And usually it's an angel, but it doesn't have to be an angel that comes to the to greet the person, because you never know what's going to happen. You just don't know. We know a lot. We'll be told a lot of things. Like if somebody's going to die on the operating table, which has never happened to me, we will be notified that that's going to happen, and we will be told what to do and how to handle the situation and how to make it go easily and without trauma, because that's what we are in the big picture. And it's just coming to me now, the angels are saying, you're trauma police. Trauma police. We keep trauma away. That's what we do. And I'll tell you something. I had a woman, I have so many stories, but there was one woman who came, and everything that happened in the pre-op was like mind-blowing. But she was somebody who had decided was having a mastectomy, but just on one side. And she had decided that she didn't want to have reconstruction. She was going to get a tattoo. And Dr. Feldman, in his wisdom, said, I think it's Amazons. He said, there were female warriors who would cut off one of their breasts so that they could shoot their arrows with more precision. So, she spoke to me about that and how she was, going to be this warrior. And she wrote to me a year later, an email. And she said, Raven, all my friends, they thought we're so shocked and, couldn't believe that I had this thing go on for me, that you were there in the operating room with me when I needed to get surgery. And she said, and, and it's a year's anniversary now. And my friends are asking me, how do I feel now, a year later? And she said, you know what I say to them? I tell them that my surgery day with you was a holy day. It was the best day of my life. That's what she said in writing to me. And I believe it. And so many women, I'm like an expert now in breast cancer. And I'm proud to be, because I love women and I feel like we're the answer to the future. And I'm so glad that more women are standing up and, becoming the one who has power and certain governments and everything, like we have to help now. Our power is vast. We know things that men don't know, I'm sorry to say, but we need the male divinity to assist us. But I feel that that's, in my opinion, that's what it's really about. And Colleen, you witnessed that at Omega. My Chris was there. He is behind me. I do everything and he makes it all happen. And that's the divine masculine assisting the divine feminine. Yeah, I mean, what we do is bigger than we even know, really.
Such an amazing story. Well, then when did you start, you started to share about when you started teaching people, and then how did that flow into, you've written so many books and been teaching people and developed your company. And so can you talk about that too?
Yes. Well, I was already teaching Reiki, and I've taught Reiki almost since the minute I became a Reiki master teacher. And so, I guess I started teaching in 1996, because I became a Reiki master in November of 1995. So probably spring. And then it just went on, and I taught continuously Reiki, as we do, and Reiki 1, 2, Reiki Master, and so on, all of it. And then I started to do the medical Reiki in 2015. My husband died in 2015. It's so confusing to me. It's like, I started before he died, but it's like such a confusing time, like everything crashing together. And but I was steady on the job and doing it. And then in the meantime, I had written the healing power of Reiki already. And then I was so lucky. I mean, when you live in New York, you never know what's going to happen and who's going to help you. And because of another person named Signe Pike lived in my building in Manhattan, and she was the editor at Random House, and she's gone on to have an amazing career as an author. I'm actually in her first book. But anyway, so I had an agent. So I wrote the book and I got sold. The Healing Power of Reiki was bought by an editor at Llewellyn. So then I had, that book was out. And then I said to my agent and my husband, I said, well, what should I do now? Should I write another book? And she said, yes, you should write a book about angels. So I wrote the angel book, and that was an amazing thing, because in the midst of writing the angel book is when it became very obvious that I was really, really ill from what I had had dealt with at Ground Zero. And it was that they told us everything was safe in the beginning. It wasn't safe. I found out later just how unsafe it was. But nevertheless, so that took a while too to develop. But when I heard afterward, because I was still in touch with the police, I was going down to Ground Zero, even after the site closed, to give Reiki to the Port Authority Police Department officers. They still had a trailer on the east side of the pit, really. And I was actually giving Reiki to a sergeant on the night that the war in Iraq broke out. And he ran me to the street and hailed a cab and said, "You bring her right home and make sure she's safe," because nobody knew it was going to happen, you know. And anyway, it was New York, nobody knew. But anyway, so I was writing so as soon as I found out that everything was really poisoned down there, I started to do Bikram yoga, hot yoga. And my sweat, because you sweat like anything in there, smelled like ammonia, the kind of ammonia that our mothers used to use that they don't even sell anymore. It's so horrible. The smell is like almost you can't even stand it. That's what my sweat smelled like. So how poisoned must I have been? But the good news is, yes, my lungs are slightly weakened now, but I didn't die from lung cancer like a lot of people did that I know. And and my kidney took it all, like all that poison went to my kidney. And it took a while for all of that to manifest in the way in which it did. And so I had to get my kidney out. And it was just really intense, the whole story of that and me getting my kidney out. But the thing is, I ended up being sent to Dr. Badani, who ended up writing the foreword for my angel book. And so, you know, he knew Dr. Feldman. So he said, well, I don't, and so when I went to him, I had just had a really bad attack and I was like shaky as all get out, but I knew I had to go to him to have my consultation with him. So I go and I say to him, Dr. Badani, I cannot get this surgery unless I have Reiki in the operating room. He's like really shocked and he's like, but he's cool. You know, he's cool, but he's shocked. And he's like, we better sit down for this. So, you know, we were standing, greeting each other. So now we're sitting down. And I said, well, I just can't do it. I've been in the operating room. I know it happens. I won't be able to handle it. I'll be so upset. I don't know what I'm doing. So he says, all right, I'm going to call Dr. Feldman. I'll talk to him and we'll see what we can do. He said, but I don't know any Reiki masters. I said, well, I have one. She's in the waiting room. So he said, have her come in. So she comes in and so anyway, the long and the short of it is he talks to Dr. Feldman. He says she can come. So it's all set up. So, you know, it's like, I had my own experience of what that whole lead up to that was. And it was really all about spirit and about angels and about love and feelings of just gratitude that I could have Reiki during surgery. And so it came to pass that at the end, like I get the surgery, it's so scary. I walk in with, and this is something people need to know. You need somebody with you when you walk into a room like that. It's like all this equipment, all these people, and so intense. And it's like terrifying. But if you have your medical Reiki master with you, you know somebody's with you and they've got your back big time. At least this, you know. But this is really big. And anyway, so I was terrified. Like I'm going to get robotic surgery. That means that there's this thing that looks like a huge spider under glass. And it's like, oh my God, with whatever. So at the end, because everybody knew me, you know, I was treated like I was somebody special. Like from the minute I got there in pre-op, oh, Raven, oh my God, it's you. Oh, let me do this, let me do that. And Dr. Feldman had said enough things on my behalf to Dr. Badani that after the surgery, I was sent to a special ward and with a special bed and all this stuff in a special room by myself. And so when he came in at the end, you know, after I get to a room, he's still in scrubs because they do one surgery after another all day long. That's their day. So, when he came in, he said, it's a good thing we got that kidney out, because you know what? It was so filled with poison. If you had one more episode, that thing was about to burst, you would have died. And that's what he said. But Lisa was amazing. He doesn't even hesitate. He's just like, Lisa was amazing. Oh my God. It was just so wonderful to have her in the operating room. We forgot she was there some of the time, but it was so powerful and wonderful. And I thought, geez, that's amazing. And then and I said, well, you know, so that was really something. Then I fell asleep and I went home the next day, which he ended up writing about. And because he wrote the foreword for my angel book, and he came to my office and got Reiki from me, not expecting that it would be anything except a time for him to have a nap. And then had this profound experience that he wrote about in the foreword. And I had a client at the time that all this was happening, you know, once I was well and back to doing my Reiki again, because it didn't take long. You know, it's like I had Reiki during surgery and that all the bad was gone. And now it's just, everything's coming up Raven at the moment. So I had this client and I said, oh, so yeah, she goes, well, how's the book coming? I said, oh, great. Dr. Badani is going to write the foreword, because he hadn't given it to me yet. And she said, she was a person that worked at Columbia Presbyterian. Actually, she worked at Columbia University also. She was a professor, and she was somebody who was in the psychotherapy department. And one of her jobs was that she was trained doctors in how to speak to patients. So she knew a lot of people up there. She goes, Badani is writing the foreword for your angel book? She said, he must make the hospital a lot of money, because they're not allowed to use their credentials like that. So I was like, well, you know, Reiki comes to the rescue again, because really that's a very powerful foreword. It really is.
I have a question kind of along those lines, is that, you know, a lot of the, I'm not using medical Reiki in the terms, but like when you're trained or you see nurses that are in Reiki, the way that it is seems to be presented most of the time is in a I don't know what word to use. The only word that's coming to mind is like a drier fashion, but you really seem to marry the spirituality side with you know, that piece of Reiki with it all, which is really kind of, I love it. It's very different than what is a lot out there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I only do what I'm told to do, you know, and the thing is that it's really time for medicine to realize, I mean, that there is a spiritual aspect. I don't talk about it. I don't say, you know, that this is spiritual energy medicine most of the time. I might say it though. It just depends. Like I give myself permission to say what comes out of my mouth, because I know I've learned in really wild ways that I've said things I couldn't believe I said, and it was the exact right thing to say at the moment. But yeah. What I usually say is that this will activate the parasympathetic nervous system of your patient. And that means that they'll be calm, as you know, and their body will be in the mode to heal, because they can't heal if they're stressed out. And they all know this. They know this as part of science. They know that if they're in the sympathetic nervous system, that's fight or flight, all the wrong chemicals are running into the body, and it's unavoidable. And so, oh, well, if this could happen, and then Dr. Badani in his foreword, he says, he thought, well, if I thought it was going to help, maybe it would help, you know, the placebo effect. Yeah. But I don't know, like, you know, it takes a lot of courage to just show up and do this. And like, you see, like I'm not going to be somebody that I'm not. I refuse to do it. If you don't get it, from what my life is saying to you and what my passion is for this person that's your patient. I'm sorry, I'm not going to put on a suit and I'm not putting on a white jacket to please you. And Dr. Feldman has plenty of people in his world that are in suits and in white jackets. And guess what? He loves me just the way I am. And I don't mean, in a romantic way. I mean, he loves me, the soul that I am. And that's why he's opened all these doors. And Dr. Feldman is a great, he's a great, amazing being to promote this concept of energy medicine in the world. And he said in an interview recently, because I have been, I decided to create this scope of medical Reiki practice interview series. And all these CMRMs that are operating room nurses and, marketing geniuses and animal Reiki practitioners, people and stuff like that. He did an interview and he was asked, well, when did you realize that you started medical Reiki with Raven? He goes, I didn't. He said, I didn't. She did it. He said, she did it. He said, I was happy to give her a platform that was respected in medicine for her to do this. And that's what he said. And it's like, so that means that he has confidence in me as I am, because I've never tried to be anything except what I am around him. And so, and to address your point, I think it's really important to expand people's reality, and we can show up and expand their reality. It's like I went to a consult with a patient that was a client that was going to get spine surgery. And this is only that was June that we went. And the surgery was on July 5th. And he wanted a medical Reiki master. And so I went to the consult with him and listened to everything that the doctor had to say. He's like an amazing surgeon. And then I said, well, doctor, thank you. He was about to leave. And I said, there's one more thing. And he said, yes. And I said, he wants a medical Reiki master with him for this. And I had the book and I went, I brought you this book. Will explain about it. And you'll be able to understand what this is. It's got a foreword by a very famous breast cancer surgeon. He took the book like this between his hands. And he said to me, this is not complementary medicine. This is medicine. Let's see what we can do. And then he ran out of the room because they're all so busy. And so it came to pass that was in the sauce. And then the surgeon's office called me, and I had somebody all lined up and ready to go to do this, because it's all happening in New York. So I had one of my New York CMRMs all set and ready to go, everything ready to go. And so the office called and said, I'm sorry about no to the Reiki. I went berserk. I was like, this can't be, I just said, this has got to be, it's too important. And I just really, really threw down. I was in the middle of the street in Queens and I was just remonstrating like crazy with this person. And I thought, she said, I'll call you back. I thought she just wants to get off the phone. Well, she did call me back and she said, it's been approved. It's approved by administration. Send in all the paperwork. So it came to pass that they broke their COVID rules because they didn't allow it to happen. And it's just like a whole thing. So if I just followed, along and was just like everybody else, it never would have happened, but it happened. And it all was a huge success. And spine surgery, which is really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, you're right, though. There are a lot of nurses that do take Reiki, and they have it. But the fact is that for the most part, they use it for themselves,
Mhm.
because there's no time for them to do Reiki with patients. Reiki can be coming out of their hands, but the procedure that we have to go through, at least for me, like, I don't give Reiki to people unless they ask me for it. If I don't have their permission, I'm not doing it, unless I might be doing it like by accident. But if I'm doing it by accident, then maybe the person really needs it and they're calling it on me. But basically, I don't do Reiki unless somebody asks me for it. So, and not only that, but nurses are so busy. It's when I got my kidney out, because I was in the special room and Dr. Badani and all this stuff, the head nurse that was on the shift, because in the night, she kept coming to check on me herself, and she told me, she said, we don't have time to really take care of patients anymore. She said, we on a shift, if we get to spend 25% of the time with the patients, that's good. And she said, we have so much paperwork and so much stuff to do on the computer and all these things to do. And I said, holy moly, like, we have a whole career waiting for us. And I'm just like doing the best I can and dancing as fast as I can to open doors. But in the future, guess what's going to happen? There'll be teams of medical Reiki masters. I know it. The angels are telling me there'll be, teams. Like right now, if somebody's going to surgery, it's like, where's anesthesia? Has anesthesia been in? No. If we are in the bathroom getting ready, because we know surgery's coming up soon, they're going to say, where's Reiki? Where's Reiki? And they're not going to go to, and we'll have the opportunity to be relieved during a surgery. Everybody else gets a relief. We don't, there's nobody else there. There's you. At this point, there's you. That's who's there, you. And so, in the future, there will be medical Reiki masters going around and giving people Reiki, because nurses don't have time. So it's good for them. And I really want to organize, and I have people that are willing to help me, but I sometimes it's so overwhelming, I don't even know what to ask for. But what I really want to do is teach Reiki, straight up Reiki, at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, because the medical students, they want to know things. They want to know about energy medicine in this time frame. Dr. Feldman said that the medical students are a completely different bag of chips these days. And he also complimented them on their brilliance in that same interview I was talking about. They're smarter every year. And how he's training them to be compassionate and to care about the patient more than,
a lot of the, spirituality pieces in Gen Z seems to slightly be more acceptable. And before, when I was saying that, more Reiki in hospitals and offices, and it's all good. It's just interesting because I feel like you being exactly who you are in that space, so many of us are attracted to the spiritual side of Reiki, that it does give a lot of different types of people permission to be exactly who they are. And if they're interested in medical Reiki or somehow, being connected into that, it gives them permission to look into that as well, as rather than being just attracted to either the scientific or the medical side, just in that avenue. So anyways, I find that interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I mean, I have not been treated well by everybody.
Yeah, I bet. I
Some
can
of the
imagine.
pretty brutal, some of it. It's like,
Yeah.
we're talking about the people with the biggest egos. If you don't have a lot of ego, you can't do that. You can't.
Yeah.
To pick up a scalpel and cut into somebody.
Yeah. You have to have confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's so deep. It's like, what? It's like, it's so important for this to be happening in surgical suites. It's just over the moon. And you know, also I've been told by operating room nurses who became medical Reiki masters that the surgeons can be wicked in the OR, throw things, swear and scream and, you know, rip people apart because they don't like what's going on. But I don't know, they never act like that when we're there.
Calming the room down. Colleen, you should talk about a little bit about what Sue talked about in Brazil.
Oh, and how in Brazil, actually, medical Reiki, Reiki and veterinary care is actually very well received and taught, and that they are doing a lot of research with it and development with it in the medical fields and the veterinary fields.
It's actually being taught in the schools. Can you
Yes.
clarify that? Because I feel like
I don't want to clarify it when I don't know enough about it. Sue Machado is a student of mine in Brazil and teaching Reiki there. And the Brazilian Congress, we just did that. And they talk about how well received Reiki is in Brazil in the medical fields.
That's
The
good.
scientific fields, the research and development fields. So, yeah. Well, I would love to hear, Raven, some of the specifics, first of all, about your book, the Medical Reiki book, and you have other books. It's Raven Keyes, and you can find her books on Amazon, just by the way. But also, like, what's in your book and what are some of the specific things that you teach in your medical Reiki classes? Like, what are people learning, and how do they find you to learn it?
Well, on the website, ravenkeysmedicalreiki.com, you can read about everything. And then the trainings that are coming up, you know, it's /trainings. You can see what's coming up. Because of COVID, a lot of things have had to be on Zoom, but the Zoom classes are really powerful. And you know, it's not unusual to have, like this weekend I'm teaching, and I have people from all over the United States and then from 2 other countries. And yeah, and so the Zoom makes it possible for people to really be able to be certified, learn everything they need to know. It's more like it's like getting people ready. And I'm not going to talk about all the details of it here because it's the training, and it's my my duty to protect what I do, because we don't know who's going to watch this. You know what I mean? It's like a lot. And so anyway, but what happens is that people know what's going to happen, more or less, what they can expect to happen. It's like, you don't want to faint in the OR. It's just like, they will just step over you and keep going. There's one person, and that's the patient on the operating table. That's the only person that matters. And so, you know, it can be so startling. And I have a lot of personal stories and information. And then there's the gold standards and best practices of what you do, what to do under any circumstance, and as much as I can predict. But the basics that are there pretty much could apply to everything. So one of the most amazing things that I think during the writing, this is that, do you see what I mean about that?
Yes,
that
absolutely.
Okay. So the Medical Reiki book is everything that's ever happened since the beginning of me going into an operating room. So what, during the writing of this book, the angels would say things to me and they would tell me I needed to find out information, and they wouldn't tell me the answer. Gabriel wouldn't. I would just be told, look at this. You have to find out about that. And one night I was typing in New York and, working on the book, and Gabriel came. I started typing something like, once upon a time, there were these people and they were being tortured and they were being killed. And then there were these other people and they showed up. And it was like, what is this? And then Gabriel said, you must investigate this. So, it's like, okay, I don't know where to start to investigate this, but I don't even know what I started to Google or whatever. But what it led me to was that the scientific revolution started when people were being burned as witches. And that there was a whole group of people that wanted to find out what the ancients knew, because they felt that if they could, reveal what the ancients knew, that's what these people are doing. They're only doing ancient medicine. Stop it. Stop this. Because really, something in our DNA, one of the worst things that we carry as epigenetic change is the horror of what happened to women and all those burnings. That is, I have a whole experience of what happened not that long ago that has to do with understanding the horror of what humans have done to each other through the ages, and what we're really are healing ourselves and doing healing on people with this energy medicine is cleaning up the DNA, because you know what? It's like reversing things to get it back to where it started from, the divine spark of life itself. And so anyway, I found out all that stuff, and that was really something that I was able to put in the book. And how first do no harm was added to the Hippocratic Oath at the end of the scientific revolution, at which ended with Galileo, I think, if I'm recalling my own writing correctly, because after a while, when you write a book, you're like, is that in the book? And what did it? And it's like crazy. But yeah. And another thing I was told that I had to investigate was, you have to investigate E = MC squared. And I was like, and so, I just listened to the angels. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, E = MC squared. I'm looking and looking and looking and looking and looking and looking online. And what does it have to do with healing? That's my mission. What does this have to do with Reiki? What does it have to do with healing? What does it have to do with Reiki in particular? And so I'm like looking everywhere, nothing's satisfying me at all. And I don't see what any of it has to do with healing. And then I go to Scotland with Chris. We're surrounded by reindeer on the Cairngorm Mountains, and they had 2 reindeer herders there who were having a summer job, and they went to college in Edinburgh, and but they were studying the earth itself, and one was studying volcanoes. So I asked them, what do you know about E? Do you know about E = MC squared? Yes, it's a measurement. That's all they say. I'm like, well, it's a measurement. That's it. I'm like, oh no, that doesn't do me any good at all. So before I got the answer, after months, and I cried so hard because I knew I had to find the answer and I didn't know where the answer was. So this one day I went up on the tour, and I went to the same trail that you go on, and I went to the Hawthorne Grove, and I sat there, and where I had done tons of journeys and tons of work, and just so much work. And I had been told that the nettles are my medicine. They love me, the nettles do, and I love the nettles too. I don't care if they sting me, I like it. And anyway, so the nettles on the tour, as far for me, they could be really tall if they don't want me to go a certain direction, or they could be tall today and disappear tomorrow. You know, it's like crazy up there. But so I bring my flute with me, and I bring bubble stuff, and I'm gonna, you know, have a some time to celebrate with the Fae. So I'm playing my and so now I'm at the tree, and in front of me the nettles are really tall, and so I'm playing my music and they're swaying as I'm playing my flute, and I'm blowing bubbles to them and everything else. And then I start speaking, and they're listening. They all are like bending in to hear what I'm saying. And I'm like, I have to find the answer to E equals mc squared. And I don't know what else to do. I just don't know where to look. I just don't know what to do. I just can't find the answer. And I'm sobbing, and they're like, you know, really paying attention. And then I said, I just really wish that I could believe in my own messages. When I said that, it was like this sound started all around me. These like bees and all these different tones, or I guess you'd say tone, like different keys. And it was getting louder and louder and louder and louder and coming towards me more and more, until finally I just had to say, I have to go. I have to go. And I had, all of a sudden I had a crystal in my hand, and I left it for the tree. And then I went out, not knowing whether or not I was really going to be where I was before. And then when I was walking away, the sound continued, but it was getting fainter as I left. And then I went back, and all of a sudden it came that E equals MC squared is a formula that the Reiki symbols actually are. That because what does E equals MC squared mean? Energy and matter are the same forever, because C squared is time, the speed of light times itself, which is infinity. So energy and matter are inseparable, and you can't have matter without energy. And so, you know, what are we doing? Bringing energy out of the universe and spreading it in matter. So E equals MC, and they told me that the Seihei key is infinity. And I was told after a while too about that because, you know, all of COVID, and we had to come up with new protocol that was given by angels to work on people that were getting surgeries and everything. And I was told that the Han Shaze Shonen is a place between time and space where all possibilities exist. So even though we know that when we give Reiki, it's intelligence, it's going to do what it needs to do, what needs to be done. And our job really is to be the hollow bone or the hollow reed, or lately I just say heal, heal, heal. That's all I say, without any attachment to what that's supposed to look like. But yeah, and that's it. I mean, E equals MC squared is, according to what I was told, finally, are the Reiki symbols.
Well, that makes sense to me. I can feel that.
Yeah.
I will enjoy spending time with that concept and with Reiki and with the guides around that. That's really fascinating, Raven. It makes sense. It looks like we lost Robin for a minute. I saw her freeze. And then, so because Robin just missed that, can you share what, again, with MC squared? I know she'll want to hear it.
MC squared is the speed of light times itself. That's what it means. And that's infinity. That's forever. So energy and matter, E equals matter forever. And the great heartbreak for Albert Einstein, such a genius, was that his formula was used to create the atomic bomb. So that's how much power on the other side that Reiki has, as much as an atomic bomb. And only thing is, it cannot be abused. It can only do good. It's the only thing. That's the protection in those symbols. Only for good, only for the highest good, only for the positive. Yeah. We lately, because there is a very big medical study that's going to start now. The IRB has approved it, and there's like, and now this thing that Dr. Feldman and I worked so hard to make happen. He is a scientist and the lead surgeon on this research, and I cannot participate in any of it. It's like out of my hands now, because it's all about, there can't be any bias. This is being so guarded that the CMRMs that are on this case cannot speak to each other. They cannot tell anybody that they're doing it. They can't even talk to each other about anything that's gone on, because bias, because influence, no. And because I started this company, I can't be one of the people that participates. So it's been a really big adjustment for me to release into the ethers. I don't know. It's just like, but anyway, I don't know why I brought that up, except to say that, you know, things are happening in the United States of America that, and the projection on this is that this will be the first study, and then there's going to be another and another, and they're going to be looking at more and more and more things. And we already know ourselves that, of course, it's going to come to pass that these things can be measured, because the post-op nurses see it on the monitors. This is really true. They're like, what are you doing? Look at this. Oh my God, don't stop. Keep doing it. The patient's doing great, you know. So we know that it's going to go well. But you know, releasing the control over all of it, when it's been a real adjustment for me, that I won't know anything. I'll know nothing about what's going on. And so be it, because I have other things to do. Let the medical, you know, let the research team take care of it. And these are some of the most revered researchers in America that are doing this. So be it. Let it go. And they told me, the angels, that one thing that Reiki practitioners may not realize, but need to realize, especially now with everything that's before us and all this change that needs to happen in the world, that we have to realize, without ego, that we are the miracle delivery systems. That's it. It's not about us. It's like our service to the world. And we were allowed to be born, and here we are, and we have to know that. And 1 minute of Reiki for somebody can change everything for them. 1 minute of miracle juice, if you want to call it that. And so there's no room for ego. It's so big. It's huge. And
well, it's interesting when you say ego, because I think there is maybe on both sides of like how we think of ego when it comes to that, but also the non-belief in that can be ego, you know, and just getting out of the way and letting the miracle juice work. I was in the ER this summer, and my mom, you weren't able to be there, right? Because I forget. Oh, you were taking care of Luna?
I was with Calvin.
You were with, yeah. And which is her other grandchild. And so my dad came and was just giving me a little bit of Reiki. The COVID restrictions are lifted. So he was there along with my husband and giving me a little bit of Reiki, and I was hooked up to the machine watching my blood pressure, and it was very low at that time. And you literally, I mean, as soon as he started, I was in there for a while before he was able to get there. As soon as he started the Reiki, my blood pressure just rose to like a very, normal level where it normally is. So that was, you could like literally watch it. It was pretty cool. It's like you said, watching it on the monitors.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh, Raven, just so much fun to talk with you. And I have loved hearing your stories. And I know just from all of the people that I know also that have taken the medical Reiki training with you, that it's an incredibly valuable course. And I know you're teaching both online and some in person in 2023. And so I just want to say again to everybody that you can find Raven at Raven Keyes. I want to make sure I get this correct. Raven Keyes Medical Reiki.com. And of course, we'll be putting it in the show notes. And then she's also on Facebook as Raven Keyes 79. Website is medicalreikiworks.org. So really a lot of it, truthfully, you can Google Raven Keyes and find out lots of her information. And then also her books, Medical Reiki and The Healing Power of Reiki and The Healing Light of Angels are also, her life's work and expression of this love and passion that she has. And I just so agree with you, Raven, that this is what we can do right now. And I really believe we are at the change of an age, and there is more possibility now than ever before for these evolutions. And when I have been working with the descendants and asking them, I went to the ancestors really at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And not that I haven't been to the ancestors before, but I really was spending time with them and what can we do and how can we help? And they said, you need to go to the descendants and ask them. And so I've been working with them all this time, and they've been talking about how important it is that we are contributing these energies into this time, the electromagnetic fields, the actual physical matter and energy, and working with it. And there's so much we don't understand about it, even as a practitioner and having worked with it all these years. I just know that I have become more and more skilled at allowing it to do the work and to guide us. Recently, the descendants said, well, really, we call ourselves the ascendants because humanity does evolve from here in really beautiful ways. Mm. And so that was just a message I received it was last week, and really working with them. And they talked about even the online Zoom communications and how we are actually contributing these energies into these fields of energy with technology, with communication, with the electromagnetic fields, and how important it is just for innovation. Well, not just, but for the innovation of communication that contain these higher frequencies that we know are part of the Reiki energy and how it's guiding us, and the angels and how they guide us, and just taking our time to receive the guidance
Yeah. Yes, we have to pay attention. One thing that I wanted to say, that is, I think is important, is if somebody, we're getting back into doing the medical Reiki trainings in person as we can. We had one in Boise, Idaho. It was amazing in October. And that was the first one since 2020. But if somebody wants me to come and teach medical Reiki, and then Chris comes with me as my trusty assistant and male backup of divinity. If you decide that you would like us to come, the host or hostess, however you want to say it, gets the training for free. And the responsibility would be to have a space. If it costs money, then we pay for the space, of course. And then just get the people there. Just get the people there. Yeah. I feel like that was important, although I didn't want to interrupt your amazing, your revelations about the descendants. Like we're all
Yes.
trying to help.
It is
with-
important to say that, and for people to know, because I know that there is a tremendous interest. And now that we are opening back up into being more in person, I know that medical Reiki and working with medical situations is something that my Reiki students ask about all the time. And we have been doing a lot of work here in Portland, Oregon. The Northwest Reiki Association really bridged the medical and Reiki community here and offered some training, not going into the surgery rooms though. This was more volunteer and oncology settings and chemotherapy settings. And then of course, with COVID, so much of it discontinued. And now things are starting back up. People know they can actually have those interests and possibilities. And so when you travel to a place, and I assume, because right now you're in Glastonbury, but you'll come to the United States and anywhere probably in Europe or other places too, that I know, now we're far more global. But also that you have, I think, if I understood you at the Omega Institute in your talk there, you also have with your company, there's a registration that occurs that does show that people have the training that does empower them to work in medical fields.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's actually a doorway. It's a doorway because it gives medical professionals, surgeons, and so on, a reason to believe. They don't have time to investigate Reiki for the most part. They're not going to read the book. I mean, I have clients that are giving their surgeons the book, but and who knows what they do with it. I mean, they're so busy. But it's a doorway. And also having that registry, it's private. Nobody knows who's on the list because we don't want the crazy people. Or I'm not going to get into it, but we get rid of pain. Do you know what I'm saying? That's it. I'm not going to say anymore, but nobody knows anybody everybody's thing is kept private. But we know everything. Who they are, how to get in touch, what their that they have their liability insurance is up to date, and so on and so on and so on. So we know everything, and it's really getting to be more and more because of the fact that more and more people are finding out about this. We're getting calls. People want to study Reiki. We get emails from people who want medical Reiki during their surgeries. We're hooking people up. Wherever they are, they're in California, they want somebody, okay. I mean, whatever it is, we can make a lot of things happen because of that registry. That's private.
So probably both ways, if a hospital or a surgeon or a patient
Yes.
wants to find a medical Reiki practitioner, they would be able to contact your company to find one in their area.
Yes. Yes.
And then also if a medical Reiki practitioner, let's say, has a friend or a family member that would like them to be in the surgery room, then being part of your registry, they can also show the surgeon then your registry and their qualifications that way.
We don't share our registry with anybody, not a
Okay.
certain nobody. If they want to know, because everybody has their credential. So, you
Right.
know, we are vetting them. They
Yeah.
don't need to see anything because what's on the registry, you know, we say they have their insurance, like we vet them. Everything's cool for this person.
Nice.
They're part of it. And they are in the registry. They're not just making something up and saying
Right.
that they're not. And, yeah. And it's a really powerful thing. I mean, it's some of what's been going on of late is just so beautiful. And then also when people become certified, then they are invited to join a private Facebook group that is, you know, global, and people are able to ask for healing in all these different ways from each other and ask questions. And then there are tons of files of all this information that you can download. And right now, just yesterday, I got a message from CMRM in Wales, and she was asking me a question about what she should charge. And she already downloaded the letter that she gave to her client that's going to give to the surgeon. I mean, there's a whole procedure that's makes it, you know, it's very professional, in other words. And so we are who we are. We show up. Here's my thing. And I got this from one of my clients, and she's a life coach of extraordinary proportions. She does coaching for people in corporations, you know what I mean? So she has given me this and said, I could tell everybody, show up. Even if you think you can't do it, show up. Just say yes. Pay attention. And that's one thing we have to do. Like when we're doing medical Reiki, it's like you have to be a shaman because you have to be in two worlds at the same time. So pay attention, tell the truth. Don't ever tell anybody you can heal them, because you cannot say that. That's so unethical to ever say anything that isn't true to anybody. It's unethical if you're working in medicine. You don't know. I get upset when anybody that's a doctor says they're going to do that. You know, you don't know what somebody's destiny is. So show up, pay attention, tell the truth, do your best. That's it. That's all you have to do is your best, and release attachment to outcome. That's big, especially if it's a family member. Yeah.
That is probably one of the biggest lessons, is to release the outcome. Yeah.
Allow Reiki to take care of it
Mhm.
in the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah. It's really, really powerful to learn about surrender.
Mhm.
You know, for all of us, like however we've been raised, so many of us have been raised to be perfect, or it's like, I don't know, so many things put on us. And the thing is too, that especially like having the opportunity to spend time in Glastonbury, I know that we all have magic in us, and that's a good thing. It's like been given a bad name by religion, really. It's like religion has told us that everything about us is wrong for the most part. You know, we're never going to be good enough or measure up to what the religion thinks that we're supposed to do. And all the joy and glory and power and wonder and magic, majesticness within, if there even is such a word, but what's majestic about us is considered to be evil. You know, I have there's a division of my company in Ireland. The person that formed it worked with me. There's RKMRI. It's called Medical Reiki Ireland, RKMRI. She is in Sligo. And she has a shop there called Angel Gift World or something like that. And the Catholic Church tells people on Sundays that they shouldn't go there because it's evil, and that they shouldn't get Reiki because Reiki is evil. Guess what? She is thriving. She's thriving. They even put a note under her door and said, you better say these prayers because what you're doing is so evil. This is the only thing that can save you are these prayers. It's like, whatever. But, going back to what you were saying before, Colleen, about our ancestors and our undoing everything that needs to be undone in the DNA situation. It's really, we have to do it. There's no other time that's going to show up. Everything is on the SOS moment. It really is. Everything is dying in the world. The ice is melting. The animals are dying. It's like, there's a lot going on. And I have the chills to think of the fact that we were allowed to be born to do something about this. And in medicine, these people are not going to come looking for us at this stage of the game. And this is SOS time. And we show up and we're in the operating room and they're like, geez, what's going on here? I mean, not everybody. And some people get really flipped out by the fact that there's something so outrageous going on that they can't identify or, put words to or whatever. But a lot of times people will come up to me and they're like, what were you just doing? Oh my, what is it? Do you have a card? The best news is when it's anesthesia who's asking you for it. Really.
Right. Yeah, Reiki is its own best marketing, shall we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love just walking up to people and, not random people that haven't invited it, but, just if somebody wants to know, and put your hands on their shoulders for even, like you say, that 1 minute can make a difference.
Yeah, it does.
Well, Raven, thank you so much. Again, Raven Keyes, and Keyes is Keyes. And so it's her website and information is really, Raven Keyes medicalreiki.com, medicalreikiworks.org, and then social media, either Medical Reiki or Raven Keyes. I think if you type either of them in, or any of them in, all of them will come up. And then check out her teaching schedule. It's both online and in person on her website, so that you can enjoy just, you are a blessing in the world, Raven. Thank you so much for all that you do and that have done. Thank you.
Thank you. I bow to the light and the two of you, and then to all of our kin, our Reiki kin.
Our big community. Absolutely.
I thank you for all the work that you've been doing, Colleen. It's like you're a rock star.
Thank you. Well, and for Robyn and I, you can find us at ReikiLifestyle.com. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we will see you next time.